Finally, I was going back home to my home island of Puerto Rico and spend some time with my family. This semester was pretty tough on me, but a good vacation was what I needed. However, this time I wanted to take a road trip to the town of my birth, Salinas. I was born in a hospital in a little community called Aguirre, but I had never personally seen it, not that I can remember anyway. From what I read, the hospital was abandoned, but still standing. My mom didn't want me to go, but she didn't tell me why. I didn't care though. You know how moms are, they worry about every little thing. The ride took around an hour. Aguirre was pretty well hidden in the back roads of the town, but eventually I was able to find it perched on a small hill. Why did I go in? The hospital had 2 stories, and a good amount of foliage blocked the stairs to the main entrance. It actually looked like the building didn't want me there. Surprisingly enough, there wasn't a lot of graffiti. Usually, buildings like these are covered in graffiti. I could only make out one word of what little there was, muerte, which means death in Spanish, but it was cut off at the T. The surroundings were also completely abandoned. I could see houses and a small park nearby, but it looked like nobody had been there in ages. A gust of wind suddenly blew, and it caught my attention because it went through the foliage that covered the main entrance. I swore somebody was asking me to go inside. The steps weren't all that difficult to go up. When I got to the top of the stairs, I went through the main entrance. The place was a mess. Linoleum tiles littered the floor. There was dust everywhere, and I felt like I was breathing large amounts of it with every breath. I didn't see any medical equipment either, or beds. The only thing there were old dried-up toilets. But the one thing that did catch my eye was a small trail of dry blood drops leading from one room to another. I checked the room closest to me and saw a huge blotch of dried blood on the floor. The blood drops seemed to start there, as if that was the first drop of blood. From there, the drops continued into the room across it and stopped just in front of the window. Smaller droplets, as if sprayed the window's frame. I thought of a doctor throwing a body part out the window or something. I would have lied to myself if I said the whole image in my head wasn't a bit comical, however grotesque. The wind, really? A shuffling noise suddenly came from my right, and I briefly saw a small shadow bolt down the corridor. I ran after it. The corridor turned a left, and then a right, where it became into a larger hallway with more doors to its sides and a large exit that allowed light to flood in. Sadly, I didn't see anything. However, I saw small plumes of smoke still dancing in the air, so something was definitely in there. I scanned my surroundings and noticed another trail of blood. This one, however, snaked from the corridor I had just come from and down the large hallway to the exit at the end of it. It was also a solid line, rather than small drops of blood. Notice that I didn't say it was a trail of dried blood. What really scared me was the whisper that suddenly shot out from behind me. "Hermano," it said with pitch similar to a baby's. That means brother in Spanish. I immediately looked behind me, and I saw the same small shadow from earlier go down the corridor I just came from. Again, I ran after it. When I got to the hospital's entrance, I lost the shadow again. But then, I heard the same whispering voice. "Come down here," it said to me in Spanish. I looked to my right where the sound came from, and I saw a staircase leading down to the hospital's first story. I couldn't see the bottom of the stairs too well, seeing how the first floor was not as well lit as the second one, probably from all the foliage growing at the bottom. But for some weird reason, I went downstairs. I couldn't have just walked away. When I got to the very bottom, I saw the same line of blood coming from a hole in the ceiling, down the wall, and through a corridor behind me. It led to a large room, which was probably a lobby back in the day. The ceiling was all cracked and falling to pieces, and I could see the rotten wooden beams that formed the foundation of the building. But then, the noises started to happen again. I heard a mess of scuttles moving from one side of the room to the other. Dust shifted in the air quickly, which only confirmed that there was something in there with me. Even the wooden beams creaked a bit from time to time. The scuttles were one thing, though. I also heard the same whispers again. Even though they clearly sounded Spanish, it wasn't as understandable as it was earlier. I swear the voices were having a conversation between themselves, but then their attention turned to me. "Why have you come, brother?" The voice asked me in Spanish, of course. "Tell me who you are first." I answered back in Spanish myself. The whispers began to rise again, as if consulting their answer, and then a silence dropped. After waiting for a couple of seconds, they finally answered me. "Our mothers did not want us. Our fathers were eager to get rid of us. To this hospital they came to undo us. Like trash, we were thrown out into the scorching sun. But our survival was hardly their choice. We stayed in this world, just as you chose to stay." I was completely confused by their words. I didn't have that much time to think, though. "Stop!" Suddenly, a door creaked open next to me. I saw it. A baby crawled from that room. Its legs were malformed, and its body was drenched in blood. Bile oozed from its mouth, and I swore it was trying to form a smile. With every drag of the body, it left a trail of blood. A rustling behind me was enough to snap me from my shock. When I turned, there were more of them crawling up to me, and up in the wooden beams, I saw them climb their way down with incredible speed. My mind couldn't handle it. I ran past the first one, up the stairs and out of the hospital. Just as I was getting into the car, I heard their whispers. "Come back to us, brother!" I don't know where I am. There's so much light. Am I dead? My whole body is hurting. I guess that means I'm not dead yet. At least not entirely. Everything is becoming clearer now. But that damned light is getting to me. I think I'm in a hospital. I'm getting up, or rather trying to. My neck aches no matter how slowly I move it. "Please stay on your back. You've been through a lot recently," a nurse says to me. I look down to my arms and legs. They're covered in bruises, scars, and cuts. Necrosis is even on my toes. But how did this happen? "What is your name?" she asks me. I tell her my name, wondering how the hell I remember it, but not what happened. My lower body is feeling like it's on fire. They had better act fast if they want to heal me. "What happened to me?" I ask her. "You were almost hit by a semi. In the midst of evading it, you fell over a stump and were scratched by several tree branches that were laying there. The driver was a psychopath who had just been on a killing streak in the neighborhood. He stopped the vehicle and went to finish you off personally due to the lane not being big enough to turn his truck around. After a hard fight, you were able to kill him," she says to me, as though it were nothing important. "Impossible!" I shout back, hurting my lungs in the process. "What proof do you have?" "Your own testimony, sir. We arrived on the scene shortly after your fight and asked you what had happened. You responded with everything I told you," she says. "If that's so, then why do I have gangrene?" The stench from my battered body is unbearable, nauseating me already. This day just keeps getting worse every minute. "Calm down, sir. You were laying in the snow afterwards. It was winter when it happened and your feet began to suffer from necrosis," she explains. "Now I need you to lie still. We're going to perform surgery on you." I look around my room. The door is shut tightly and only the lights above keep the room from descending into blackness. It's growing hard to breathe every second I'm not operated on. The nurse is taking out some kind of device to perform surgery on me. She's moving towards my legs. "Wait, you need anesthetics, right? Get some for me now. I'll be in great pain if you don't. Are you mad?" She giggles at that, saying, "We're in hell. Of course it's going to be painful." The lights are flickering on and off. They always flicker after hours in this hospital. It's so creepy here. The walls are falling apart and the floors are covered in grime. Seeing as though this place is for healing people, you'd think there would be more funding put into it. But hospitals are businesses, and as of right now, this place doesn't make much money. Not many people work here either. Everyone agrees hospitals are necessary, but nobody wants to work at one. I'm the only nurse here, now that it's after dark. I have 2 floors worth of patients to keep an eye on. Luckily, most of them can take care of themselves. But I still have to spend a lot of time walking down dimly lit corridors tonight. Some are even pitch black. I wish I had a flashlight. I've spent most of the night walking back and forth between 3 rooms. There's old Jones with the broken leg. There's Agatha, who's comatose and on a ventilator. And then there's Cliff. What can I say about Cliff? I've never met anyone like him before. He doesn't speak. He hardly even moves. He just stares at the ceiling with his mouth open. It's uncanny, almost as if he's not even alive, like a corpse that can still walk and talk. I poke my head into his room. As always, he's just lying there in bed, staring off into space. We have him hooked up to a heart rate monitor just in case something happens to him. Besides his catatonia, his heart rate is way slower than it should be. I heard there was something wrong with his brainwaves too. We don't know what his problem is. Are you doing all right in here, Cliff? I ask him, just as a courtesy. Is there anything I can get for you? He turns to look at me slowly. His expression doesn't change. He just looks at me with wide eyes and his mouth open, like a dying fish. Creeped out, I leave the room. Cliff is still on my mind as I check on Jones and Agatha again. I heard he's been doing worse and worse lately. He might not be much longer for this world, but it's almost like he wasn't here in the first place, at least as far as I can tell. As I head down the hall to check on Cliff again, I hear a floorboard creak. I pause and tilt my head. Is one of the patients out of their room? Do they need me? I hear movement up ahead and tense reflexively. One of our emotional support cats, Casey, dashes past me. I sigh with relief. For a second, I thought someone was in trouble. I walk into Cliff's room. He's convulsing. The heart monitor keeps going up and down and up and down. His lips are trembling and turning blue, as if he can't get enough air. His ragged gasps are filling the room. I bite my lip and will myself not to panic. I've seen people die before. There's nothing I can do for Cliff now besides try to comfort him. Cliff? I ask. Cliff, can you hear me? It's going to be okay. I walk closer to him. As he does, his head lolls to the side and his heart rate slows to a crawl. He's barely alive at this point. I've seen this happen before. In my medical opinion, he only has a few minutes left. I should probably move on to the other patients. I turn to leave. The lights go out. At the same time, a figure appears. Don't scream, the figure says, closing the door behind it. I take a step back towards Cliff, aghast. What the hell? I demand. Who are you? What are you doing here? Keep your voice down, the figure insists, taking a step towards me. You'll frighten the other patients. Turn the lights back on, I order. I would prefer not to, the figure replies. The lights hurt. I try to calm down a little. Whoever this person is, they seem reasonable enough, though I still have no idea who the hell they are or what they're doing here. I sit down in the chair next to Cliff's bed. It's there just in case Cliff gets a visitor, but he never gets visitors, and it's a bit late for that now. His heart rate is still very slow. What are you doing here? I ask the figure. Are you some kind of psycho? I sneer. Do you want to hurt me? The figure glares at me. If I did, you would already be dead. I swallow hard. I can barely see the ominous silhouette in this light. It doesn't look human. Its limbs are too long and its frame is too tall. And what kind of human has horns? It doesn't seem to have a mouth either, and its entire body seems strangely devoid of detail, like a shadow seen from a distance. What do you want? I ask again. The figure looks down at me. I notice how sharp its claws are. It starts. I cannot stay long. I wanted to talk to you before I had to leave. Well, make it quick, I retort. I have a lot of patients to check on tonight. The figure chuckles. Always so dedicated to your patients. I admired that about you. What? I ask, disturbed. I narrow my eyes at the thing. How long have you been watching me? The figure looks at Cliff uncomfortably. For some time, it replies vaguely. I've seen you and what you do. You care for these people. You want them to get better, even if they have nothing to give you in return. The people in charge of you, they do not care the same way. They see these patients as a source of income. You humans have corrupted the very concept of medicine. But you understand the point of it. To make people better, not to line your pockets. I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate it. I always thought that you humans were all evil. You've shown me that maybe I was wrong. Thank you. I don't know what I was expecting this thing to say, but a heartfelt expression of gratitude was somewhere near the bottom of the list. You're welcome? The figure sighs. I'm sorry to have frightened you. I must be wasting your time. Oh no, I reply, startled. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Even as I say it, I wince. This thing might be friendly, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't scare the hell out of me. Oh no, the figure replies. I must be going soon anyway, and you have patients to check up on. No, I insist, I say. The beast sighs again. Thank you, but I must be going. Cliff's heart rate flatlines. The being disappears. The lights come back on, and I finally make the connection in my mind.